Very good afternoon, friends. Welcome to the second edition of Elets Diagnostics Leadership Summit. I'm your host, Mrinmar Bhattacharjee. In this panel discussion, we'll be discussing about robotisation in clinical diagnostics, enabling personalized medicine and patient-centric approach. And I have the honor to welcome Dr. Ravi Gaur, who is Principal Advisor at Spice Health, founder Dr. G. Path Labs, and co-chair CII Delhi chapter for Health Committee. Dr. Gaur will also be the moderator for this panel discussion. I also have the honor to welcome Group Captain Retired Dr. Renu Madan, Head of Department of Pathology and Lab Medicine at Venkateshwar Hospital. I also have the honor to welcome Dr. Kamaljit Kaur Madan, Lab Head and MR Quality Assurance at SRL Limited, Fortis Escort Limited. I also have the privilege to welcome Dr. Leena Apikatla, Head of Laboratory Services for Pan India at HCG Hospitals, Bangalore. I would now like to welcome Dr. Ravi Gaur to moderate this panel discussion. Over to you, Dr. Gaur.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this Elets, Diagnostic Leadership Summit, and with the theme that creating future-ready diagnostic labs. I think this is probably the most appropriate time when, especially after COVID, I think when we realized that all the diagnostic labs or pathologists or the diagnostic centers have come the forefront. They have been actually leading the battle from the front. And so I think that shows the importance of diagnostic. Probably we were just working behind the closed doors, but today the tenure has changed. So this is a very good time probably, and I think it is time we all clinicians understand the importance of diagnostics. And so probably this, I really congratulate the E-List leadership team to select such a brilliant topic, which is probably the need of the hour, and probably will be going forward, will be one of the base for entire the healthcare industry. I'll come back to straight to our session today. This session we have like I've seen yesterday we had marathon sessions. Today we'll have few and something more on. But this session panel discussion is basically talking absolutely of the future. That's robotisation in clinical diagnosis, which enabling personalized medicine and patient-centric approach. I think that's a very interesting topic, and it has got a very complex thing. On the one side, we are talking about robotisation, and now we are on the other side, we are building absolutely personalized service, because that's something which is how do we weave them together. That's something we would learn in this session today. I welcome all my panelists, and we already heard an introduction, and welcome Dr. Professor Captain Renu Madan, welcome Dr. Leena and Dr. Kamaljit Kaur. I think let's keep the session going, and we'll probably have. I look forward for the knowledge, wisdom, and probably a lot of insight what's happening and what's going to be in the future. The labs look like. Now, before we start, I think I'd like to just say something about what the topic is actually speaking. The promise of total laboratory automation is just getting started. I think the robotic elements in laboratory medicine are actually not new. If you're looking for robots in the clinical labs, you might miss them on the first glance, because that's something, you'll not be able to see where are the robots as of now. But that's because today's robots don't look like the characters which come from Star Wars or something from the Mars. They don't look like that. They are within the machines actually, and doing inside the bigger instruments and systems and tracks, and doing most repetitive laboratory work, and they are about to be everywhere for that matter. Now, will robots step out of analyzer? I think that's a question we probably have to address, and we'll move forward. Now, I just quote, I think this ABB Robotics, a robotic manufacturer that runs a new research center at Texas Medical Center Innovation Institute in Houston, it estimates that the market for non-surgical robots in healthcare will reach about 60,000 by 2025. And of those, roughly about 5,000 will be inside the laboratory. I think I'm really looking forward to see what about welcoming us when we go and get the blood samples. Probably that's maybe the future, but how far? I think the time is like we need to. Time will show us it exactly when do we have. Now, robotic elements in laboratory medicine I mentioned are not new. However, much of this technology has advanced rapidly in the recent times. While they stay inside the instrument, but track in systems, and that's what it disguises evolution. They're not able to see that what I mentioned earlier. In somewhere in 1990, I think I remember the clinical laboratory professionals started talking about total lab automation. And but this hope for eventuality hasn't quite happened, at least not yet. Almost like we have 1.5 lakh labs in the country. Probably only about 10% or 15% are getting almost like 80% automation or 60% automation, not the full automation. I think the future is still to come. Now, today, robotics are most often used to organize the most routine and repetitive part of the lab. Things now, actually, I'm talking about the future labs which are there. We are using actually the physical robots. There are something you're using for things like centrifuging, aliquoting, automating urine chemistry, immunoassays, hematology, and urine analysis. Systems are most often controlled by barcodes, actually, that tell robotic element within various instruments what to do. Then generally those things, but there is always a special place for the human elements in the lab today, where human beings are also feeding the analyzer and doing some work. This that's chart that's changing as robots are beginning to fill up all the manual parts of the lab. And that's something like we probably we might I don't know from yesterday's session somebody was talking about from 2060 you may not even find a human being in the lab. You just walk in and walk out and you're done. But I really don't know the future. I think, but future looks it has to be balanced to my mind. Robotic technology is getting more sophisticated today, more accurate and more intelligent actually as artificial intelligence becomes part of this picture. Robotic technology is also getting cheaper now with the price points that makes financial sense when it saves less money on other operational expenses. For example, like for that matter, robotic arm can not only process more tests without fatigue, they can continually keep doing it but also handle the smaller volumes, which probably human people will not be handled. So that using the smaller volume can run down the cost and bring down the cost per repeatable test. And that's more important in India, where I think price matters a lot for every assays, and that probably we can make the diagnostics more affordable to people. Robots also make fewer mistakes. So quality, probably precision will become better as you move forward. It's like something I really foresee. A tube arrives in the lab. Today we have many hospitals who have just like samples are barcoded. After that, pneumatic duct carries the tube and machine will read the barcode and know what to do with the tube. After that, tests are run. The tubes are archived and refrigerated for several days in case reflux testing is required. And if they're not, they're discarded of their own. Nobody has to touch the tube. And all of this is done automatically and robotically. This is really happening in some part of the Western world. Will it come to India? I think somewhere, yes, sooner or later it will be. I think I probably see next decade, few of the bigger labs definitely adopting that system. System is not only much quicker, but we also have almost no error. And results for some tests will probably come within minutes. And that the biggest thing will be the safety, because we are seeing the infectious samples kind of a thing. So probably the dirty work probably the robots can do, and other works probably can be our scientific minds and people keep safe. Now, question is, till now, these are all inside these, will the robot step out of the analyzer? It's time for labs to integrate this technology into device to take over time-consuming activities like dosing, mixing, and pipetting, loading, unloading, and so on. I think it's time to balance it out. Robots in our labs controlled by the cloud, I think that's something I really look forward for, and I think all of you probably must be really exciting to see that future. Now, already in few cases, humans are now in minority within labs. We have seen the COVID time. We have tough time getting people inside the labs. Many of them were very ill, and we have shortage of manpower. I think robots will definitely be some help to my mind as we move future. Now, on demand, maybe remote control, I think we already seen that, can be sitting in the home, can be control the out and see the lab, what's happening. They do our work. Probably, maybe that's something which can be seen in the future too. Now, with robotics, it's extremely easy to repeat process, protocols, workflows. That some software can be easily revamped and shared with the build upon, and that's where the human mind is going to play a very important role. Now, with so much of robotization happening, we'll have enormous data with us, I think. There's so much in every real-time data going to be with us. Now, this is something, a new era of data, and the new era of smart healthcare with human-robot collaboration, enabling precise and rapid AI-aided clinical diagnosis has now definitely arrived. And this is what we're going to discuss today in the coming session. Data analysis and application will help building up companion diagnosis, support personalized medicine, and making our diagnosis patient and individual disease centric too. Now, in today's era of personalized medicine, advances in medical devices, software solutions, AI, smartphone, wearables are all playing a very important role, predict, monitor, manage decision about health. In this ever-changing landscape now, diagnostics innovation has never been more vital. I think the future I see as we move into the new era of robotization and personalized medicine. Now, with this background, I think I have kept the session into two between some, probably what is robotization and what robotization going to lead us to. So my first question is for Dr. Kamaljeet Kaur. I think I'll come to that. Now, Dr. Kamaljeet Kaur, we have first question where you work in a hospital-based lab. You have last 20 years plus experience in the hospital areas. Now, where do we stand today when we talk of robotization in pathology labs? And how do you see the future, number one? And second is, what benefits and challenges do you see as we move ahead in the future? Dr. Kamaljeet, please.
Thank you, Dr. Gaur. I think that was quite a descriptive thing which you've already said about this technologies which are coming up in the market, like robotics, artificial intelligence, digital medicine, and genomics. And they're actually transforming how the patient care is delivered now. So for me, if I look at the healthcare, because I'm working in a smaller city, I see that more than two-thirds of the clinical decisions are based on lab test results. So in a present scenario, running a laboratory is a very daunting endeavor as there are constraints of limited resources and tight budgets. Newer tests are being, they're coming in the market constantly, and there is an increasing realization that there is an imbalance between high demand for diagnostics and lack of supply of qualified technicians nowadays. So even if we have qualified technicians, we see overall labor still amounting to around 60% of the cost of the lab services. Also, in smaller cities like mine, we're using manual distribution systems, which actually lead to increased turnaround time, which is actually very undesirable in today's scenario, where fast reports are required by the clinicians for early treatment purpose. So looking at all these constraints of cost factor, increased turnaround time, limited resources, I feel, there is a role of robotics, which comes up in a clinical laboratory. Now, if I try to define a robot in a simple layman terms, I'll say it's a machine which is programmable by a computer and is capable of carrying out complex series of actions, which automatically saves your labor and time. It can be guided by an external kind of a control device, or it can be embedded within. And the branch which is actually dealing with the design, construction of robots, their computer system is called as robotics. So if we look at robotics in clinical laboratories, like you have already said, it is not something very new. And it is true that the technology has been advancing rapidly in the last few years. But yes, as already said, it is lying inside the larger instruments. And this has actually kind of disguised its evolution. So right now, robotics, as already discussed, it is swallowing all the manual parts of the laboratory, like centrifuging, aliquoting, automating, whatever. And this robotic technology is getting sophisticated. As already said, artificial intelligence is becoming a part of it. And artificial intelligence, as we all know, is a wide-ranging tool. that enables people to rethink how we integrate information, how we analyze the data, and use the resulting insights to improve the decision making. So now, of course, robots are trying to step out of the analyzers and they're becoming more humanoid. But that's what the robot, the word robot conjures. So with I see there's a great future for robotics nowadays with accessibility and commercialization of genetic sequencing made possible by robotics. I think there has been a major advances also in what we call as genomic medicine, now leading to more individualized patient care. So, laboratory robotics is coming in a big way. It is increasing the speed, it is increasing the efficiency. As you know, we know that robots can work continuously, they can reduce the amount of reagents which are needed to perform a reaction, and there's a minimal wastage. Also, the introduction of robotics in the sense has, kind of improved the task reproducibility, the repeatability. As automated systems, we all know they are likely to have less variances in the reagent quantities and less likely to have variances in the reactive conditions also. So there's more task endurance, there's more precision, there's a higher productivity, since human constraints are no longer the factor. And of course, as already you discussed, there is a safety for the laboratory people. As robots, they minimize the human exposure to the hazardous chemicals and thus bring about high level of safety standard within our industry. Laboratory robotics can also withstand very adverse environmental conditions, and that tedium and boredom which the laboratory workers face all the time, it can be overcome with the introduction of robotics in laboratories. Errors, like already said, have decreased, and this leads to reduced repeat sampling, reduced repeat tests, reduced rechecks, and there's a timely delivery of tests which can lead to more reflux testing for us. Also, robotics has led to timely stock alerts, reduced the inventory holding, and it's keeping a check on the expiry of the kits, leading to improved lab margins and improving the service industry or delivery. Of course, it comes with its own challenges. Like we said, it's a high initial cost as lab robotics are very expensive to set up. There is a limited flexibility of the robots. There's, lots of things like lack of intuition for solving difficult problems, layoffs of human workers, and it kind of is damaging the employee morale. But then in the end also we have certain challenges, like with these all technologies coming, we need to inculcate the education in regard to robotics and artificial intelligence amongst our lab employees. That is, we need to upskill them, otherwise we cannot use these technologies. Data privacy, security issues, there are again some challenges which we face, as there is no clarity how the robots would treat our data, who's responsible for it. The data owners are responsible, the manufacturers are responsible, or the programmers are responsible. Within the robotic industry, if I see, there are again certain challenges in making cobots, that is, the humans and the robots have to work side by side. Uh, the robots need to map the environment properly and the surroundings very carefully, because robots running over humans, you can't expect them, to run over the humans and create problems. So, still, it is in that infancy stage, making of cobots, proper cobots, which can move around in the lab. And also, it has been seen that robots usually, kind of function or perform a particular task. But true revolution would come if they start performing multiple tasks simultaneously. So these all are the challenges. These are all the advantages of a robots. This is the scenario at present, which is actually going at a very fast pace. And if I look, at what is happening in Indian scenario, I feel that there is a steady increase. We know it's a slow, but there is a steady increase in the number of diagnostic chains in India. Even the smaller labs in India need to be automated. They should have a cutting edge technology to stay in competition. But because the capital expenditure is on the higher side, there's some reluctance in the Indian diagnostic labs to kind of adopt these measures. as skilled labor is still available at lower costs in our country compared to developed countries. But I think, in order to sustain, we are left with no option but to adopt maximum possible automation to survive. And even the peer pressure on the labs is very consistently increasing because we need to deliver accurate and timely reports. And for that, we need to have a judicious use of automation, robotics, and artificial intelligence under supervision of competent manpower. So all these things basically is making this new technology of or robotics, artificial intelligence very important for us to look into and to gain some kind of an edge out of these technologies for future.
Thank you, Dr. Kamaljeet, giving a detailed insight. And I am actually really excited to know I think the very concept of multitasking robot, because that's something, yes, definitely we all look forward to, because it's not like, but I think, but two important points you raised, because I think if you remember, this thing, we have about, say, 1.5 lakh labs across India, and we have just about 20,000 odd pathologists, number one. Come what may, I think, and so that I think one of the important tasks, they've actually become our assistants, actually, robotic assistants. So that, and the other technician will still come in, maybe it's cheaper, the skilled manpower in India, but there is a huge shortage. If you go out to the town, big cities, you still find difficult. Probably some repetitive tasks, something which is real-time monitoring, which is happening, sometimes which is like, where you want to say, okay, maybe in the quality control, we can always use them. Okay, feed them the data. They won't allow the machine technician to start the machine if the QC is not okay. They can probably hold hand, stop it here. That's something we can, and they give you a signal right away wherever you are. You can actually monitor your lab very, very well. So I think that's important. But one question I'm going to ask you, interesting, because I am, will you, because I've seen somewhere now, they've read somewhere, we have robots not taking blood samples. Will you allow a robot to take your blood sample? And what's your thought about it? And
Well, somewhere I think robots cannot actually replace that kind of, that expression, the human expression, that emotional quotient. When you take a sample of a individual, robots would be too mechanical. It will be too crude for them to take a sample. For the patient himself or herself, I don't think so. They'll be too comfortable with the robots taking. It may be exciting, but somewhere that expressions, the human expressions, that empathy while taking a sample would be lost. That's my personal.
yeah, that's, I think I agree with you, because being a pathologist, I'm too scared of needle, actually. But Renu, are you adding something?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to add that we have seen actually, and there are now making these kind of robots which can be called as personalized diagnostics, because what they do is they choose the correct say bore of the needle depending on the
Wow.
diameter of your vein. They
Wow.
put an infrared camera and they highlight your capillary system and your veins so well. They choose the correct bore, and the pain that is felt by the pain. Now this I've seen as a video only, I have not experienced it myself, but everybody who came out of that said they did not feel the pain at all.
Well,
Okay,
and
so
then now I'm
result is
dreaming.
definitely not there, but efficacy is there.
Yeah, but I think now I can think something, dreaming 10 years ahead. Probably once you enter a
Will
phlebotomy
come.
room,
This will
robot.
come.
Yeah. No,
This will come.
I'm just thinking 10 years from now, probably, like, when you, like, dreaming and something like that, when you enter a phlebotomy room and the robot actually observes your expressions and fear and reads the emotion, and then
Yes.
accordingly different kind of robots come and picks up your sample. I think that would be
Yeah.
interesting as you move forward. I
That
think
that's
that's
very
fine. I
true.
think, yes. I think to my mind, I think rightly said that robots will be somewhere, but I think more it could be cobots, like collaborative robot. Probably we have to be standing with them and utilizing. So it could probably balance it out, and both the functions can carry. Human touch will never be lost. It is required, definitely. But I think the technology will help us to define our talent and augment our skill and intelligence. That with that, I think that's interesting. We just move on to my second panelist, Dr. Leena. I think we had just you just heard about the robots, and I think so much of robotic automation happening. There's so much of data they will gather, so much information they want to gather, and I'm sure there is too much of information loaded in a robot. And I think, what do we do with that? Because that's something which is very, very important, and that's what we're talking about today. Everybody talks about precision medicine, personalized medicine, and the patient-centric kind of an approach. I'd like to understand from you. You have been into this field for a while, and you especially work in the cancer areas and SCG, where personalized medicine has taken a very important role. What do you understand about personalized or precision medicine, number one? And I think are both the same, number one. And today, where do the Indian diagnostics stand as of now? Probably your views, please, Dr. Leena.
So thank you, Dr. Gaur. And I would also like to thank the organizers for this topic because this is really one of the upcoming topics, and all of us as doctors of laboratory medicine and in healthcare, we should be aware of this particular topic and all its nuances. So, to give an answer, Dr. Gaur, what I would say is the word personalized medicine is not actually that new. In fact, to give homage to the father of modern medicine, Sir William Osler, he was the first one who probably has defined it by saying that variability is the law of life, and as no two faces are same, no two bodies are alike, and no two individuals react alike and behave alike under the abnormal conditions we know as disease. And also, Sir William Osler has said that the good physician treats the disease, but the great physician treats the patient who has the disease. So with this space, I would like to say that it's modern medicine. Actually, we have sort of moved away from what the father of modern medicine had proposed way back in the 19th century. So what happens is now we are again going back to this general one-size-fits-all approach. So if you remember the previous times, our medical doctor would ask us about our suffering and say that, okay, this is the treatment which is suited for your condition, and individualized evaluation. All of us are trained in the art of history taking. But however, over a period of time, we have sort of moved away from it. And so this is where, again, we say that personalized medicine has come into the forefront. So what exactly is personalized medicine and what is precision medicine? So personalized medicine, actually, in fact, sir, both the things were sort of taken together. Both of them were used interchangeably. But what happened over a period of time is the word precision medicine was found to be more suited, because precision medicine is something, it's a model for medicine which is customized based on the individual patient, and all the aspects of the care can be personalized, and the medical decisions, treatments, practices, everything can be personalized. So when we say precision, we say that it hits the target in the same place over and over again. So the precision medicine creates a medicine model which targets a feature of a disease which appears in multiple disease or cancers. So, and then what do you say about personalized medicine? Now, personalized medicine is no longer, actually, if you see, we are moving more towards the term precision medicine, because it was, when we said personalized medicine, people thought that, okay, this treatment is only personalized for me, something like a boutique wear or something. But it's not always like that. We say that it's personalized, yes, but if the same genetic structure or the same molecular genomics appears in another group of patients, then that would be tailored for that individual as well. So basically, if you ask me, then the word precision medicine has taken over. And even if you do a Google search over a period of time, then initially it was all, the Google search was all directed towards personalized medicine, and now it has all become precision medicine. So we would be mostly saying that, okay, this is a subset of precision medicine. And then what is precision medicine? So this is something we should know, that it is how we tailor the medical treatment. So is this something which has never been done before? Well, we can say that if you go back to maybe 2011, 2012, it was seen that we have this oral anticoagulant drug, warfarin. and that is used for long-term management of thromboembolic events. So studies show that some 21, 22 million patients in the US, they were on warfarin. Some of them suffered the adverse effects and some of them did not. So what was the reason? So a lot of research was carried out, and then it was discovered that there is a variant nucleotide in the cytochrome P450, which is responsible for this variation. So this was one of the starting of the genomics getting into a therapeutic area. So then other genetic variations were like the vitamin K. There is a vitamin K reductase complex protein, and the people who had this did not have the adverse reactions, and the ones who did not have it had the same had the adverse reactions. So similarly, we had another drug called I think it's rastuzumab, which is a very effective drug for breast cancer treatment. But only 20% of the breast cancer patients were supposed to benefit found that they benefited from it. So why was that? That is because this particular drug was based on monoclonal antibodies which targeted the epidermal growth factor receptor, the HER2/neu EGFR. So, I mean, all of us know about it, but this is how it started. And then that is how the drug was targeted at the particular gene. So this is how the genomics and personalized medicine and precision medicine have sort of intermingled together. And nowadays we are at a stage where we can actually map out the individual's genomic structure, and we can make a therapy tailored for that particular individual. So this is really exciting. And as already discussed, this opens up a whole new area of medicine, and especially for us doctors of lab, it's a really exciting time to be in, because we are into genomics. So what are we doing? We are sort of clubbing genomics into predicting a therapy to understand the disease pattern, and we are also trying to make the patient be at the center of all our therapy. And that leads into our next thing, which is the patient-centric approach. So once we have the genomic data of the patient, we can make it tailored to that particular patient, which becomes a patient-centric approach. So this is how I would like to sort of merge all the three terminologies. And when we marry this whole thing with the robotics, this is something we are at the cusp of a really great time in the history of medicine. Then if you ask me about the other thing, that is when we talk about genomics, the cancer part of it. So I think in discovery, so now we have discovered that there are so many genetic components to cancers, like for example the BRCA gene, which shot into fame with Angelina Jolie. And so the BRCA gene and the treatment which is directed towards it, all these are subtle nuances of the personalized medicine, or actually the precision medicine sector. So what's happening now is that several pharmaceutical companies have actually taken this data, and the therapies which are being used are all targeted towards a particular genetic structure. So what we do, even at HCG, what we have is we have developed a biorepository of all the blocks and all the the tissue samples, the frozen tissues which we collect, and we do a DNA and RNA analysis of that. And we are into that era where genomics is going to really drive our therapy, to give an example. So I mean, it's really a huge mine of data which is there, and the various companies are really excited with all this data, and there are people everywhere who would use this. But that leads to us to another whole new field of data privacy and data secrecy, which we can cover later. So this is one of the main challenges of this kind of therapy, but we can cover it in a later question. What do we understand again by the what's the benefit of this entire thing? So if you see in 2015, Barack Obama launched initiative in the White House wherein he spoke about precision medicine. So he basically said, and that was the first time that actually USA got caught to the idea of precision medicine. So when President Obama gave the 2015 address to the union, he said he launched this precision medicine initiative. So he said that all medical treatments have been designed for the average patient. So when we formulate any kind of theory or something, we say, okay, this is for an average patient, average weight, and so on. But now we are going to say that it is an innovative approach which we are taking into account individual differences in genes, environment, and lifestyle. So now when Obama started this, so there was a lot of excitement at the White House and the Department of Health and Human Services, etc. Then the bioethicists, the privacy and civil liberty advocates, technologists, all of them got into this and tried to make a proper framework of legal and technical issues which could come up. But yeah, so that was one of the first time that precision medicine got a whole worldwide platform, and that was something exciting which happened in US. So if you ask me, where are we in India? That's what you had asked. That where are we in India now? India is a very special country because we have a diverse population. It is not at all. We cannot say what is India. India is so many things. So basically, when we say now diagnostic industry, as Kamaljeet also was saying, that there are so many challenges which all of us face. So what is the diagnostic industry in India going to face with all this personalized medicine? Now, if you ask me, then India is in a stage where there are about 1.5 lakh laboratories, and actually we are at a very nascent stage. Although the business potential of this, the industry requirements, and everything would be very high, but we are at a very early stage of this whole thing. Personalized medicine has not yet come in a big way in India. And although the US has already been ahead of this, India would definitely take a lot of time to sort of
Yeah, yeah.
embark on
And then
this change.
thank you, Lena. I think I need to interrupt here because what exactly you're saying is like, we are at a nation stage today. And but there are, of course, hospitals like yours and mega hospitals. Now they're adopting it pretty fast. And I think with that, the one, probably what you mentioned about precision medicine, I like to say, add some simple thing. Like my diabetes and your diabetes is not going to be the same. My B complex and your B complex tablet is not going to be the same. I think mine will be B complex, B1, B5, B7, your may be B2, B4, B11. I don't know, different composition. I think that's what is, we're getting personalized medicine, personalization happening based on our individual, not only
Yes.
the composition, genetic composition, but the environment, the lifestyle, what we eat, where we come from, put together are, the entire diagnostic is getting personalized, and you probably have a health checkup which is designed for my individual specific. So more personalized diagnosis is happening now, and I think we really see the future going to be like that, and we are definitely heading for that. And in any case, for that, technology is the most important part. IT has played a very important role. Complete automation and absolutely precision is the most important part, and that's what the future should be. With this, I come to, I think, the next the esteemed panelist, Dr. Renu. Dr. Renu, I think she's a leading oncologist, oncopathologist, and she's worked in various positions at this heading with the oncologist, and now, of course, on the leading hospitals also, and with the vast experience of, across India with the Indian Army, where she has probably seen all kind of terrains and all kind of people and all geographies. So I think, because Rotlina has mentioned a lot about personalized medicine. I'd like to have one, because you come from the hospital background most of the time. Personalized medicine or companion diagnosis. Can you please know the clinical status as of now. We talk about circulating tumor cell, we talk about liquid biopsy, we talk about foundation, oncotype, and I don't know, we talk about specific HER2 by face and this and that. Number one, that's something I like to understand from you. What are these and what is really happening? Number two, as I think more of what testing is getting more at the RNA, DNA level, genomics are really coming to play. Now, how do we see the future of the newer assays? Will this sugar testing will change, or will be added on by something else, or a lipid will change, or will be added on by something else? Something your views, please, Dr. Renu.
So, sir, I definitely have seen a lot of oncology. I'm an oncopathologist, but interact very closely with our oncologists, and we have a very interactive tumor board session, as well as we used to have the MDTC rounds with the patients also. So, the pathologist as such has a very integral part to play when it comes to, especially in diagnosis and in the treatment of cancer. The word cancer itself, and when we talk of oncology, is a very generic kind of a term. And people in India and even abroad usually are very scared of it. They do not differentiate that there are different types of cancers. It depends on what organ is involved. It depends on what is the final treatment going to be. And for some, it just spells a doomsday kind of a situation. So when we are talking of companion diagnosis, that is diagnostics, that's what your main question is. In today's scenario, the minute the patient is told that you have or you probably have cancer, and even the clinicians, when they're told, they will be very keen to start a treatment straight away. The first news of it means that something has to be done, and it has to be done as of yesterday, even though the patient may have come in a stage 4 kind of a situation, and it's a fairly advanced kind of a disease, but there the pressure is to start the treatment as fast as can be. So here the diagnosis is nearly always known, but you have to give more than just the diagnosis, and you have to aid in the treatment of that particular diagnosis. That's where the companion diagnostics come in. The first and the foremost example of it must have been somewhere in 90s when trastuzumab, Herceptin came in, and that was the initial the enchantment of the clinicians to deal with a certain targeted therapy, which meant that this particular tumor, which was breast cancer, a generic term till then, was going to respond to a particular medicine, and maybe in a very big way, provided that there was a particular receptor which was present on it, and that was called the HER2 new receptors, which was present on the tumor, and the tumor would just melt away if you give Herceptin, which was like a wonder drug for at that time. Similarly, you had the Gleevec, which came in with the CML and with the other imatinib and other medicines which came with the BCR-able genomics. So here there was something more to be added to the therapy than just the diagnosis, and the diagnostics were hand in glove, like EGF. Like when you would give a diagnosis of lung cancer, it just doesn't stop with a lung cancer and an adenocarcinoma. The clinicians will and should go ahead and do the various other markers which will help in not only treating but also in prognosticating your disease and telling whether you're going to have a recurrence or whether you should do further therapeutic intervention, add maybe the radiotherapy along with your chemotherapy, and address the disease. Similarly, with the CNS tumors, no longer is a glioblastoma a complete diagnosis in itself. The new WHO classification which has come out actually tells you the role of the IDH mutant, the wild type, and they have added a whole lot of histonic and the ATRX genes and their demonstration in the tumor, which is going to give you a further classification, maybe MGMT, and then you are going to be giving the particular treatment. If you have a oligodendroglioma, just a morphological diagnosis of oligodendroglioma is not enough. 1p19q has to be demonstrated. Then, of course, your diagnosis becomes complete. But companion diagnostics especially are required when you are making or treating a patient in a particular situation where you are going to target a certain agent and you're going to actually give a therapy so that the aim is to cure the disease. The final aim is to cure the disease. And in present day scenario, the good centers in our country, at least the cancer centers, they definitely are well equipped and they are asking and they are going ahead. I'm not talking of the remote places in the rural areas, but the places like you have the metros and the big cancer centers. Definitely, the situation has reached or has come to a point where you just do not stop at the initial diagnosis. You go ahead and you do the companion diagnostics for nearly each and every possible targeted agent which is present, and you can actually cure those diseases. So that is the importance of companion diagnostics as of today. Here, the robotization and the mechanics and the AI, they can help you in future. Like for example, if we have a prompt coming up when we are seeing a particular type of a morphology or maybe a cytomorphometry in a particular kind of this is still futuristic, but the prompts can be there and we can choose, and depending on that, the companion diagnostics can move ahead. Companion diagnostics are a very big and a very major chunk in formulating personalized medicine, and precision medicine has to be based on them.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Renu. I think very, detailed clinical utility of whatever we are now doing in our diagnostic space. And I think definitely that's going to be a future because, for every specific, especially cancer or even for diseases, probably, we have just seen that in diabetes, even 60% of people respond to metformin and 40% don't respond to metformin. Why? And there has to be some reason behind it. There is a lot of, I think, the companion diagnostic assays are going to be in our labs, and this will lead to, probably more of a target-based therapies. So I always feel that as a pathologist, we now need to transform with the use of these technologies, information, automation, analytics. We should actually become more of a person who's in front of the microscope, of what I mentioned, more of a clinical solution provider to the clinicians. I think that will help instead of sitting just behind the microscope. But they need us more, and we also need much more information to value ourselves. Otherwise, robots will come into our labs, perform a test, and just sign off the report. I think that's not our aim. I think that's something our future is. We should be moving. Now, I think I'll come back. I think before that, in fact, in any case, this is my last question to you. Rather, in fact, we start the round other way now. One you just mentioned about this. Probably we have, I think, another 10 minutes, not more that. So, in short, what lot of data is going to come out of it? Something on the data privacy. Can we trust our robots, or who will control this data? And how do you feel that situation? Or we could have a human being we're trusting, you trusted friend of a robotic human being, somebody like that.
Yes, the big data, that is what the word is going to be in future. And there is a very good, recently I read a very good book. It's by my favorite author, Harari, Yuval Noah Harari. He has written Sapiens and Homo Deus, and now he's come out with a wonderful book on what are the things going to be, what lessons do we learn for the in future for from 2021 onwards. And this deals actually with the relevance of AI and the relevance of the human beings and of the situation that we are talking about, the robotization and the presence of AI, which he says is going to replace in the coming future till 2050. The human beings are actually, and the most of the professionals are going to find it difficult to actually be of relevance. So the first thing is the data that is being collected, and Quest Diagnostics, I think, has a very big platform, what they call as Watson Genomics, where they are actually putting in the library of all the tumor. They are the Mayo Clinic and Sloan Kettering. These are the two agencies where they are having a complete library of the genomics of nearly every tumor that comes to them, and they store that data. And not only do they store the data, they also give you a report in which the possible targeted therapy can be given depending on what genes are expressed by that particular tumor. So now this data which is available and is going to be stored, it has to be bound legally, and by the human mind has to be there behind all this robotization. Otherwise, there's a very thin line on which we tread. Yeah, we are aware of on a daily basis. I think there is a news about some kind of a data leak in the cyber world, stealing of data from the various platforms, and we all are aware of what is called as a dark cyber world. So, and there's a very, very thin line between research and the clinical usage of whatever we are doing. So it is important and imperative that laws be formed, whatever be the technology which comes and whatever be the robotization of any kind of a platform of whichever agency that we are using, these have to be guarded by very stringent laws. Human rights have to be preserved, and privacy of the person has to be foremost and topmost. The data should be available for making the research, but every possible effort has to be made to make sure that it is not misused, because that is where we stand today. Initially, when we started with the Human Genome Project and when we started dealing and doing the cloning, there was a lot of hue and cry. If you all remember that, a lot of people wanted this to not interfere with nature, what they call as interference with what is God has given. But ultimately, for the betterment of the humankind and for the actual propagation of the good things which are coming along with it, this has happened and it will continue to happen. The human mind is a very it's far beyond imagination. What we can imagine,
Okay, that
it is much beyond that. So this
that's
is going
nice.
to
I think,
continue.
yeah, that nicely said. The data is approved, has to be like well preserved, and I think
It
it
has to
has to
be
be in the
done.
trusted hands. It has to be in the
Yes.
trusted hands, because I think the key data probably belongs to you, an individual. It should be the key of that should be the individuals only, and I think
And
otherwise,
only
uh,
rules and laws can protect.
yeah, do that. Otherwise, it can be hacked, and you really, if you're going to London, you'll end up in Toronto. That should not happen. Okay, thank you, Dr. Renu. I think I'll come to Dr. Leena. I think one important thing now, because with so much of, I think we just have about a couple of 2 3 minutes to each of you now. Will bioinformatics be the future and the big tool for diagnostic tool? Because do you see that's this bioinformatic and the analytic going to be part of the medical curriculum? Should it be part of our education now? Because that's, I think, another area we need to look into it. Dr. Leena, please.
So yeah, that's a important question, because to give a small example from the industry, when all of us were using cameras and all of us had those photographic films which had to be developed, and then suddenly digital photography came, and then the entire Kodak chain was disrupted by digital photography simply because they did not upgrade into digital. So, to give that example, I think our medical students and our medical curriculum definitely must include all these topics of personalized medicine, AI, and our data privacy, and all these topics should be a structured part of the medical curriculum, because otherwise we don't want to end up like Kodak, wherein we are totally irrelevant to the future. So India, like coming from Bangalore, when I see how IT sector has taken over all the aspects of healthcare, be it shopping or healthcare, IT has taken over in a big way. And unfortunately, medical students are not aware of many of these dynamics of the IT industry. So I think it's very important, and we should definitely include it in the first year itself and introduce them. And that also has another advantage. As doctors, when we were studying, we always felt that, okay, are we studying something which is so stagnant? Sometimes we used to feel that, oh, it's just cadavers and all that in the first year especially. So if we include topics like IT, then it's something going into the modern world, and definitely it should be a part of it. But I don't know how much time it will take for the medical curriculum to include all these topics. But because I think there are a lot of changes in the medical curriculum, but IT has never been a part of the entire study structure.
No,
So
I personally feel that it has to be very, very important thing. Otherwise, as of now, today, most of our clinicians and most of us have become a second opinion doctor. The first
Yeah.
opinion comes from Dr. Google, actually, because that's
Yes.
something that's already happening. So I think we should know how to handle that,
Yes.
patient who's already so well read. Probably I've seen in my labs in pathology, they come out with, Dr. Saab, these are the, you use your lab doing this test. Oh, I am not available. Where have you read? We read it somewhere. It's not relevant to him, but they're so well read about everything. Before they reach a doctor, they have come out with a 5 differential diagnosis. I think this is where I think we need to really have to ensure that we really don't know whether we should actually have, remember line by line Grey's Anatomy, or probably because today just a message and an alert it gives you what is the clinical application. Probably, I think the curriculum has to be somewhere changed, and I think we become more future relevant. Otherwise, we'll be, actually rightly said, irrelevant to the industry, and I think somebody else will take over. And I don't want robots to take over us, because they are absolutely, the emotionless and the faceless people. I think my last question to Dr. KK, I think Dr. Kamaljeet Kaur, I think I'll just I think, you are sitting in the hospital, and where are the, what are the clinicians expecting from you now? Because that's a patient-centric approach. Every, patient pathologist, they come to you. What do they expect? What kind of questions you feel, interpretation, and the clinicians expecting from us? I think they're talking about a lot of robotization, personalization, AI, but has that impact has come to you? Because that's what are the expectations? Any of views, please? Another 2 minutes.
See, basically, sir, the patient-centric approach is a very qualitative method with positive outcomes for both the medical and the business side. Advantages, of course, of a patient-centric healthcare includes there is an increased engagement between the patient, the clinician, and the pathologist. So it makes the patient better informed of their health conditions, which leads to a better care. And moreover, all patients, all clinicians, they want a faster and accurate results, services. So the right combination of tools, technologies, the strategies, they offer robust opportunities to deliver an excellent result. So participation, communication, collaboration of a pathologist with a clinician and patients actually makes the process of health decisions very timely and very successful. And especially this patient-centric approach or the healthcare which is coming up is making it better. So we know clinicians are overburdened in many ways. They need great support from the process perspective. And if the care delivery performance you want it to improve, there has to be involvement of a pathologist, who are very well equipped to be optimal clinical decision partners. They are gold mine of information. I'm praising myself. I'm praising you. We are actually a gold mine of information,
Yes,
technology, knowledge, and can provide new type of decision making tools and services that can optimize the information selection and delivery, which is being done in decision making by the clinicians.
I totally agree with you, and I am now started thinking of what happened during the COVID, because COVID is the first time patient is to calling you first. Actually, they used to say, "Doctor, we want to get this test done first." They want to come to you for COVID test, and then with that report go back to clinician. So the whole scenario is changed. Maybe something like that. We're talking about pathology clinics where patient will come with 5 symptoms. These are my symptoms. Please do whatever test you want. And after those tests, interpretation, they go back to clinician. I don't know whether we see the reversal here or not, but I think time is not far off that. But more important is that we need to integrate with the mainstream. And I think the technology, automation, and robotization probably will also help us get more time to upgrade our skills and think something what is to be done next. Otherwise, we will probably become a redundant, because there was a way back in 2016, CAP authorities and the US had a conference, and that question was, will current pathologists survive for 2026? I think they were right to some extent. But I think all of us has probably have moved up, and we have really integrated ourselves in the mainstream. And I really foresee that the future is going to be something which is bright, but I don't think that the influx of robotic assistant doesn't mean that humans will be banished. I don't think so. But I can see the robots supporting in a dangerous and dull activities. But you never know in the future. AI will allow the robots to start. We have so much of data. The robots will start their own building upon own data and running their own clinical trials and experiments. Who knows that? Ultron, we have seen that in movies. You never know. I think we need to be very careful on that part too. But will the Homo sapiens? I think what Dr. Renu talked about that Yuval Harari book. I also read a couple of I'm really fond of that author. He writes pretty well. But in that situation, that one of the books he's mentioned about that our decisions getting, personal decisions getting impacted by the what the our computer is saying or Google is saying. You end up marrying somebody else because you wanted somebody else. That's a very interesting book. I think all of you should read that. And second book probably that was there. Well, I think I'm very much hope so, and I think Homo sapiens and human beings will be there for next 500 years or so, and you really cannot get away with them. The power of knowledge, reasoning, will ensure that humans and human interaction will remain indispensable in the age of AI, and come what may, this will remain. Now, the question is, will the day come when robots are more intelligent than human beings? I think intelligence is extremely wide-ranging concept for which there is no uniform definition. While robots will be able to process information a different way from humans, they will never really be able to replace us. We have a new profession with pathology, maybe robot liaison doctor, the robot friend or something that might emerge. I think we should be ready for that. But I think more important will be the cobots. I feel that the collaborative robots will be the more beneficial and very positive step, and we should always we try and look into it. And that will probably, with this the help of robots and the technology and the information, we probably will end up with a more personalized medicine. So today our reports, which are like something we give a health checkup report or a predictive, that instead of giving a value, we'll probably end up giving a risk score to an individual. Combination of various factors, you have a risk score of hypertension 10% or 20%, because otherwise a standalone cholesterol value or a standalone sugar, a standalone some other value might not be much relevant as we move forward. We should be prepared for that. I think with this, if anybody had just 30 seconds, I think we have crossed over time, but if you have anything to say, we can add on. Otherwise, we'll just end the session.
So I would say that. Okay.
Yes, Dr. Renu, please. Yeah.
No, let Kanwaljit say what she
Okay.
said.
I just wanted to say that we humans represent authentic intelligence, and it cannot be ever replaced by an artificial intelligence. This is what at least I think of. It can be an assistive tool to make clinical decisions, but without
I'm with you on that. It's going to be augmented intelligence. It can never be artificial intelligence. Yes.
So
But
that's
Renu,
exactly my thoughts were also, because after reading the 21 lessons from the 21st century, again, Yuval Noah, he says the relevance of human being will remain because it is his brain which has actually designed the robots also. So the human brain is still the supreme most. So I sincerely believe that we will be relevant.
I think human heart is very important here. So
Yes.
whatever
Very much.
artificial intelligence can create, I think artificial human feelings should not be a substitute for artificial human feelings.
The heart keeps our brain alive. I think that's important, and that is what we are here. I think thank you so much for the wonderful session. I think the wisdom and sharing and knowledge. It was a great session, and thank you everybody. And I look forward and wish all of us probably after 5 years in the next decade, I think we're all here to see robots in our own labs, and I think performing some redundant tasks which we don't want to do, and we're all probably moved up to the new diagnostic era. Thank you so much again, and thank you, Elets, for this wonderful session.
Thank you, Dr. Gaur.
Thank you.
Thank you for this wonderful panel discussion. Author Yuval Harari's name came up in this discussion. Probably we should, follow such authors, and also probably we should follow some franchise movie of 007, because we saw smart watches, LCD TV back 20 to 30 years ago, and now it's reality. So whatever we watch today in 007 franchise and alike, and in this book, the books we read, probably those things are already in action in labs. They are maybe testing those things, and 20 years down the line we'll see them, we'll use them. Thank you so much for this enlightened discussion. And I would also like to thank other panelists for joining this panel discussion. As a token of our appreciation, we'd like to present the participation certificates. Dr. Ravi Gaur, thank you so much for moderating this panel discussion. Thank you, Dr. Professor Group Captain Renu Madan, for participating in this panel discussion. Thank you, Dr. Kamaljit Kaur, for participating in this panel discussion.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, Dr. Leena Apikatla, for participating in this panel discussion. Thank you all very much, and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thanks.